All right, welcome to the show. Welcome to Render Radio. I am your host, Cliff Thompson, and that is my co-host, The Beard, Birdie Friend. How you going, Bodes?
Good, thanks, brother. What about that intro? Haven't seen that before. How good?
Got to leave some things surprising and unexpected, eh? We're going to bring in Coach Liam Simmons from I'm wearing the Bulls, Franklin Bulls basketball T-shirts, and I'm repping the Bulls.
There they are.
And I'm not going to say too much because I'm sure he's got a lot to tell us about the Bulls. But I had the privilege of meeting Coach Liam Simmons a couple of months ago now, when he sort of first came across, and he's obviously got a lot of insight, a lot to talk to us about leadership, and interested to hear as he moved to New Zealand, and then all of a sudden this went down. Obviously through a few spanners in the work. So we're going to bring in Coach Liam Simmons right now. And we're going to welcome him in.
Guys, how are you?
Good, Coach. How you doing?
Good, mate. Good. Doing well.
That's great. Great to have you here. Thank you for making the time to come on the show tonight and speak to us and share with us a bit about who you are, a bit about where you're from, but then also speak into some leadership stuff, some life stuff, some working with people stuff. I think it's really important right now that people get some advice or encouragement, or just be able to have a conversation around how to work through some of those challenges in life that sometimes don't expect, right? So how this is going to work, we're just going to have a talk, and we're going to talk about a few cool things, I reckon, and we're going to bring up some photos, and then we're going to have a laugh, and not necessarily about your photos, but we're going to have a laugh about some other stuff. But we're just really grateful that you're here. So yeah, Coach, do you want to tell us a little bit about, if you can, in a nutshell, your journey to becoming a coach, what your background is, a little bit about your family, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, born and raised in Melbourne, and then / Newcastle. I spent a lot of time I spent more time in Melbourne, but I did my growing up in Newcastle. We kind of figure out life from 15 to 19, so you get to make all the cool choices and dumb mistakes that 18-year-olds make. So I did that in Newcastle, and then found myself in the United States, going to college at San Diego Christian College down there in California, which was a great experience. Enjoyed my time there, learned a lot. Lots of funny stories about transitioning an Australian being thrown basically into one of the most conservative environments known to man, San Diego Christian, which is, I didn't get it, but I figured it out later on, and it ended up being awesome. And then from there, came home, studied a little bit more, went back, worked at high school as a coach, and then dived into college, and then kind of through the years of kind of worked my way up, and then the last year spent in Philadelphia doing some stuff with some NBA players, and then from there now to here, which is the Franklin Bulls, coming out to New Zealand and Auckland has been a great change of pace for me and my family. And outside of the COVID stuff, it's been awesome.
Yeah, well, that's cool, man. I appreciate that. And obviously, you have a famous surname because of your ties to one, obviously your brother, and I'm sure people are going to put two and two together and may ask some questions a little bit later. But you said you spent some time there in Philadelphia, and then you came to New Zealand with the Bulls, and a bit of a change of pace. As you got to New Zealand, as you came here, you would have had some things, obviously, with the Bulls off the bat that you wanted to do, and you got all these young men and you're trying to build a team, and you go to the trials and all these sorts of things, and then something like COVID-19 hits. What sort of challenges did that throw up for you, first of all, and then maybe we'll talk in the wider context of just even athletes and some of the stuff that they might be just experiencing right now as well.
Sure. I think the immediate reaction is pretty selfish. I think the immediate reaction is always, how does this affect me? And then you work your way backwards from there. So my immediate reaction is disappointment and, man, I'm not going to be able to do this and this, and, why am I even here? And then you kind of take a step back and you realize, there's a lot of other people that have put a lot more time and effort and resources into making, the Franklin Bulls opportunity what it is. And I wouldn't be in this space without them, and you start to feel for them, you know, guys like Jamie and Scott who have just poured everything into this deal, and, you know, you're so close to seeing it come through, and then all of a sudden it's kind of snatched from you, and no one can, you know, foresee it, or, you know, it's not something that you can plan for. It just happens. But I think within it, you kind of bond together and try and, you know, diplomatically make the next steps that you think are best for the organization, and you really just try and, you know, keep the ship afloat, and while doing that, you got to be very respectful of guys making decisions for their family. So, you know, as you're getting into it, no COVID, you're really putting pressure on guys to commit and be around and 2 feet in, and then this stuff happens, and you really have to be respectful and mindful that guys have, you know, families that are making decisions for, and jobs that require them to be in places, or they're losing jobs, and you got to be able to be in a space to empathize and work with them on that without it being about, you know, again, like your selfish ambition as a coach to play and win and drive a team. So it's been a gauntlet of emotions and just different conversations. But, you know, overall the community's been awesome. Getting to know, like I said, Jamie and Scott and the team has been fantastic. And unfortunately we haven't been able to play yet, but you know, I think throughout it's been a great experience in terms of just getting to know your surroundings and the people that you're working with.
That's fantastic. And I mean, you mentioned there about, you know, and I appreciate that you mentioned about sometimes we can, you know, the first response might be one that feels a little bit selfish. And then you use the word disappointment. I mean, for your life, I'm not just talking about COVID now, but I mean, even as a coach, you know, the idea, if for any person that plays sport, for the majority, is that you enjoy winning and you want to win. And sometimes you don't. And sometimes you get into situations like this where it doesn't feel like a win, and you begin to question and wonder, how have you personally dealt with some of that discouragement stuff, or when you've been a bit disappointed and it hasn't worked out, and whether that might be with a team or in a coaching role or even as a player, how have you dealt with some of that disappointment stuff?
Poorly. I think you've really got to be pretty secure in yourself to be able to deal with that stuff. And I don't think there's anything but experience and time that helps you do that. I look at the last 18 months of my kind of coaching career, and I'm so thankful for the opportunities that I've had in the last 18 months, because I think it's really driven home the idea of expectations. And when we start to put expectations on things, we ruin the process, because our mind always goes to best case scenario end result, and we start to try and get there faster than, you know, we may, you know, deserve to get there, or even, you know, we won't get there. And I think we start to think end result instead of starting to think of the steps. And the steps is what drives this thing. And, you know, I've really in the last 18 months just, you know, no expectations, like none. If you have no expectations going into anything or something, and you just concentrate on the work that is required on a daily basis, and that becomes, you know, your win for the day. If you wake up and you win every day, like you never lose. And then all of a sudden you accumulate wins that to everyone else mean nothing, but to you mean everything. And then you find yourself in a space where you look back and like, man, look how far I've come. So, you know, it's human nature to be disappointed and things like that. But again, that comes from my own personal expectations of wanting to be something that may or may not have even happened. So, you know, I think just concentrating on the process and driving that home with the team, and putting your own personal expectations aside to be able to really sink into the work of getting better at, you know, we play a game, but, you know, I think it's translatable and transferable to everyday life, and, you know, the things we do on a daily basis.
Yeah. And so when we talk about, I mean, basketball itself, and you said, mentioning that it's a game, I recall when I first met you, I think we were at might have been even your first trial that for the Bulls, and we were there, and you'd come in, and I remember a couple of key things about that particular practice that I'm going to ask you about now, because I think they're great leadership, not only leadership tropes, but I think they're also great insights to the person that you are and what you're wanting to bring into this community. And you made mention, one of the first things you made mention to as you addressed the team and these group of guys that had met you for the first time, you talked about two things, attitude and effort. and you repeated that over and over. Why for you, Coach, were those two things that you felt were important to emphasize with this group? And a lot of these guys initially, it was a trial, so some were going to make it. Some were just working their backsides off to try and find a win in there and try and make the team. But you said these two words, attitude and effort. Why for you are those such important things, and how have you used them across your life so far, being a coach, being a mentor with other people?
Yeah, it comes from a much better coach than me. It comes from the words attitude and effort come from Jay Wright at Villanova. I'm so fortunate to be in a space where I can go to a Villanova practice and then talk to Coach Wright after practice, and that's such a it sounds like I'm dropping a name. I'm not meaning to do that, but it's just I'm so fortunate to be in that space where I've had those opportunities. Like, people pay money to watch the videos and stuff like that, and I'll just walk in there. And I think, as good coaching, you never reinvent anything. You're always just borrowing or taking from someone else. And sure. I think for me, what I ran into was just this confirmed sense that you can only control what you control. So I think, sports is the ultimate, environment for us to be vulnerable, in the sense that there's so many things that you cannot control. Like in the game of basketball, you can literally only control the amount of shots that you shoot. And then even that's out of your hands, because if you don't play, you never get to shoot. So like, out of all the things that could happen in the game, there's like one controllable that's sort of still out of your hands. So, in an environment where so many things are out of your hands and you're trying to latch onto the controllables, I've always been trying to put, a verbiage together for that. And then I went to a Villanova practice, and it was all practice long: attitude, effort, attitude, effort, attitude, effort. And when I talked to Coach after practice, he goes, we talk about that a lot, because those are the two things that you can put your mind to immediately. And those are the control. What's your attitude? How's your effort? And if you can control those two things and focus on those two things and be okay with everything else happening around you, you're probably going to play in a more, streamlined, focused way. And if you're talented, you're a good player, it's only going to elevate your natural talent and abilities. So those are two words that I use a lot, that I've adopted from him. He's been very successful, but it's been a concept that I've been trying to nail down for a while, in terms of just controlling your controllables and just really focusing on those things.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. Because I think I agree with you. And I think even the point you made around recapturing and passing on some of that knowledge from other leaders, because I think a lot of leaders today feel the pressure to come up with everything or to be this amazing leader off the bat. And but actually realizing that you can leverage off those that have gone before you. You can stand on the shoulders of great leaders that have taught you those things, and that's really important. And I know when I walked away from that practice myself, being in a different field but in a leadership position, I was thinking about that all the time, and I was thinking, that's so true, that attitude and effort are key markers in. Like you're saying, those controllables, those things that we can control. So I thought that was brilliant. And the other thing that stood out for me in that first scrimmage or trial that day was when you come in, you address the team, and the first thing you talked about, I'm not sure if you even remember, man, but this is how much of an impact that conversation had with me that first time. Just watching your interactions with them, with the team, was when you addressed them and you didn't talk about, now I know winning's important. No one turns up professionally to not win, right? I get it. But that wasn't the thing you talked about. The first thing you mentioned was around why this team, the Franklin Bulls, are important to the community. So you spoke to community, and then you spoke to the wider context of it being the team that represents this region, which is Auckland coming into the NBL, not having had a team for a while. So for you, culturally, why was community such a big thing to talk about? Why is that important to you personally?
I think the main thing is when you get outside yourself. Again, like, we're so selfish. We're just, people are selfish. It's human nature. It's the way we're built and designed. And I think when you can fight that and you can get outside yourself and start to have in mind a bigger picture, it starts to, I think, ease the pressure of all of the stuff that you put on yourself. So being selfish is negative twice, because you're only ever thinking yourself, but you also build up all these pressures and demons that don't exist, and it almost can cripple you because you're so just inside your own, structure. And I think when you start to paint the broader picture of community, these are the people that you represent. You start to build a platform of understanding that, oh, this isn't about me.
Sure.
I'm part of this bigger deal. And then I think in a weird way, it might ease the pressure of just what you're worried about, and start to understand that, like, as a coach, you try and break it down and help the guys understand that, like, the community doesn't want you. They want you to win. They just want you to play as hard as you can. Like, if you show up and play as hard as you can, they'll love it, and you're respectful, and you do the right thing while you're in town, and you talk to people, and you make them feel a part of the team. That's all they want. So you start to create this environment where guys enjoy being here. They're aware of who they represent, and then they stop worrying about themselves. And then you start to build a culture and a space where people want to be part of that. And then you become an extension of the community that they can be proud of and pour into. And in a weird way, you start to go outside yourself to bring people in. And now people want to come in and be part of it and support you. And I think there's something special about that when you're playing for something else and you're playing, outside yourself. I think that there's something fun about that. And every good story has that backdrop of, remember the Titans has got, the community there traveling on, like, every Hollywood, Disney movie's got the people in the background, but in a real sense, it's there. You've just got to go seek it out. It's not as easy as that. You got to earn people's respect and do things the right way. But that's super important, I think, when you're building a culture and a team.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. And the last thing I'll ask about this trial, the first couple of trials that I came to with you guys. One of the last things you said is when you were addressing the team, you said to them at the end of that practice, regardless of whether you end up making the team or not, you said something around the lines of that you would never turn anyone away that wants to come and put in their best effort. You would never, if they want to come and kick it and work hard, because you never know what might happen. But again, going back to that attitude and effort thing, why do you think that is so important to communicate to not just to young men today, but people of all fields and all dreams and all passions? Why was it important for you to share that sort of that encouragement or that piece of wisdom with them in that moment?
Yeah, and to add to that, I think one of the other things that I try to help guys understand is, like, don't ever try and impress a coach. Just be you. And it's not about being a coach or being at a tryout. It's just in general. Just be yourself. Like, there's so many opportunities out there, and you get focused on just one. And I've got to impress this person. If that one person says no, be it a job or be it an opportunity, you kind of break down. Like, I can't believe they. Like, there's so many opportunities out there. Like, never take no for an answer. Like, they may say no, and you may not be able to go back. That's part of the deal. But don't take no for an answer. Like, if someone cracks a door, keep showing up. And if they don't, go find another crack in the door and try and open that one. So I think one thing I try to do is just let guys know that, like, just play your own game, do your thing. If it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, that's okay. I'm one coach, one opinion. But I think from the standpoint of creating an environment where guys can keep showing up, I love that, because, that naturally guys have jobs. We were going to practice during the day. It's going to be hard for guys to fully commit. But instead of going, all right, these are our 12 guys, these are the only guys we're going to take, and then act like these other guys don't care as much as these guys, I think is silly. I think it robs everyone of an opportunity to, again, build the culture, build the program. And I think I love guys in the gym. Like, I want there to be 20, 25, 30 guys at the gym. Now, when we play, I can only pick 10 of them. But, on a Tuesday, why not have 30 guys in the gym? Like, it just keeps guys honest, and I think it gives guys an opportunity. I think too many times we sell the we sell the dream of if you're going hard and you work hard and you come back a better player, but that always takes it a year from now. Like,
sure.
Want to have this ongoing deal where if you go away and get better and come back next week and you're better than that dude, then we'll find a space for you. But I think overall, just not taking no for an answer, keep showing up. And I think the other thing is, like, when you put pressure on people to allow them to show up, they naturally kind of choose themselves. So, like, there's times where, like, the easy thing for them to say is you cut them and they're like, oh, you don't know what you're missing out on. As opposed to me saying, dude, you can show up whenever you want. The natural response is probably, well, you know, I've got work on Thursday and I've got busy on Saturday. And it's like, well, clearly you don't want to be here. So, like, let's be honest with ourselves. Like, you're a better real estate agent than you are a basketball player. So go dominate real estate. Like, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So. No, that's cool. And I just think, you know, as you're talking there, I'm thinking about just those simple words, keep showing up. And I think if we were to use that as a drop the mic moment, I think that permeates across so many different fields in life, leadership, work, whatever it might be. If you keep showing up, you keep making the efforts, you keep putting in, it really goes a long way in terms of what you can achieve. And like you sort of alluded to at the end there about whatever that field might be, it may not be basketball. If it's something else, you know, go and kill it in that space as well. So let me because we're going to bring a few questions in after the back end of these pictures. But let me ask, just in terms of basketball itself, Liam, what is it about basketball that you love, man? What has captured you in your family? I understand for the majority of your guys' life so far. What is it about the sport?
I think it's the team stuff. I just think it's an awesome game. Like, I think it's a space where you can be. Yeah, that's it. It's just an awesome game. It's the game I understand. It's the game I grew up watching. But I think there's spaces where you can be so creative. I think it's got a language of its own. Like, you can go anywhere in the world, and you can play basketball and not know the language, but you know basketball. Like.
Yeah.
There's certain sports that translate across the globe. Like, soccer's another one. Like, you can play soccer anywhere and you get it. Like, basketball's the other one. Like, and there aren't many sports that do that. And it's also a game that, like, requires you can either do it with a hoop, without a hoop. Like, there's so many things you can do to play the game. But I think, you know, it's a game I grew up, you know, learning to love, and it's given me so many opportunities. And then I think as I get older, the sentimental side of me is just, you know, more appreciative of the guys that have gone before me, and then even the young guys that are playing now that are kind of creating this new space, the Steph Currys of the world, and those guys who are kind of, you know, taking it to a new place, which is just, you know, it's fun to watch. But within that, you're watching the Bulls of '93, and you're kind of getting goosebumps, like, oh, this is what I remember when they used to punch each other in the face and it wasn't a foul. Like, this is kind of cool. Like, Jordan was a tough dude. Like. I'm a huge Dennis Rodman fan, so, like, I'm kind of weird, but I still think that he had hands down one of the best, like, signature shoe lines with Converse, like, to this day. Like, I do it. Like, I'm kind of disappointed that they don't run those back, because I would for sure, I'd run out and get a pair right now. So if Converse is listening, Rodman, like,
please Converse.
Yes.
That's cool. And so when we think about basketball, your love for it, you mentioned, I've got to throw this in here. You've obviously been watching the Last Dance that's come out. I mean, do you have fond memories? Were you a Chicago Bulls fan, and do you have fond memories of that era and that sort of that dominance? And I mean, even just the way you can look behind and see someone like not just Jordan's game, but someone like Dennis Rodman, who did all the dirty work, but it was so precise, and it was well thought out, and it was so technical. I mean, what do you think about the game nostalgically when you look back at those? Because I saw that just at the start of lockdown too, that Scott was bringing out some of those old VHS Bulls title videos. He was playing some of those as well. So, I mean, what are some of your thoughts about as you watch The Last Dance and that era of basketball?
Growing up, I loved Jordan. Like, and we're in a time like this day and age are so lucky because you can stream like literally any NBA game you want. Like, so like for us, we're all of that era, like where we would like watch like the Saturday morning, like NBA, whatever show it was with Ahmad Rashad. And it was like the top 10. And then like, that was it. Like, so my NBA was basically like Michael Jordan, Come Fly With Me, like any of those like VHS. And it was just like play, rewind, play, and you knew it word for word, and then you immediately went out in the driveway, and it was like 3, 2, 1, and I was like, and missed the shot, but that's okay because it was tight overtime until you win. So, like, I have like such fond memories of the '90s because that's when Australian NBL was like, in my opinion, was at its peak. You know, I was like, again, like my life has been so fortunate that I was, you know, in the locker room because my dad played for the Melbourne Tigers, and such a great time for basketball. So that was my NBA. And then later, as I kind of went to, you know, college and got more familiar with the States, I started to go back and forth. I really developed appreciation for kind of like Dennis Rodman. And then later as a coach, when you start to kind of look at what's important in team stuff, I fell in love with Dennis Rodman. Like the theatrics is funny to me. Like that's very flamboyant. And that's kind of, you know, in today's NBA, he'd be normal. Like that's kind of, oh, that's just Dennis. Back then it was like ridiculously crazy. In the 90s, it was like, that's 20, 30 years ago. It's like, that's crazy. Like when you think about the times that we're in right now, but just his ability to do his job and love his job and do it better than everyone else, like is to me just blows me away that he could dominate a game rebounding and love every minute of it, because we struggle with that so much with players, especially younger guys. It's like everyone wants to be the best player on the team. But instead of wanting to be the best player, why don't you define yourself by being the best at something? Because there's a difference there, because what you think is the best player might not be the most important player, and might certainly not be the most valuable player. And there's too many times like we distinguish ourselves by what we think is the best instead of being the best at something. So it's like, be the best something, and then you can start to build from there. But Rodman was just crazy. Like he's hands down like Pistons, Spurs, Bulls, and then from there he went too crazy. But no, it's pretty special athlete. And I think even tonight, I think it's been released, episode 3 and 4. Tonight's episode, one of them focuses on Dennis Rodman, and it's some around his work ethic. So I agree with you. And again, just going back to what you said about being the best at what you can be, finding your niche, finding what you can really add value in is awesome, man. What we're going to do now is we're going to bring some pictures in, and we're just going to get you to just narrate over some of these pictures from your life and your story, and I'm interested to hear a bit about them. So as they come up, bro, we'll just speak to them, man. So that was my first assistant coaching job at Nicholls State University, and I had hair. That was
amen, brother. Amen.
I think that's a Ralph Lauren tie on a $50 a week budget. So
nice.
Spending my money wisely.
I thought it was Zac Efron for a minute there.
That was draft night. So that's the whole crew, 1 through 6. And that was in New York. That was a lot of fun. Draft night. Brother went number 1.
Wow.
Some of us got that, some of us didn't.
So Coach, what was it? I mean, just that whole experience. I'm not going to ask you to speak, obviously, for your brother, but just being part of the family, to see your brother go number 1 in something like the NBA. I mean, what was that like?
The moment in itself is really cool. The build up is probably the part where you want to. That's got the nitty gritty, and it was very, it was almost expected. For me, it was different because I've seen him grow from age 15 to where he is now, on a trajectory that, for me, in my eyes, he's been number 1, or he was going to be the number 1 player from his junior year in high school. So I always looked at it a little bit differently from the standpoint that's like, you're going number one. You're going to be number one. Let's not talk about anything else, because name me another 6'11" guy that can dribble, score, rebound the way you do. The skill set's unique, and some use the word of he's the once in a generation. I mean, I don't know about all that, but he certainly has a unique skill set and talent, and he's very easy to play with. So the moment in itself was very much it was almost like it was like an affirmation, check the box, now move on to the next part. But the build-up was quite unique in a sense that, he went to Montverde and played for Kevin Boyle, who's, in my opinion, one of the better coaches at any level. Having everyone there and the family supporting him, and, everyone in our family remembers Ben and we still look at him kind of like he's 12, and, like, if there's a job to be palmed off, he's the dude that needs to do it.
Ben, go do the dishes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's trash to take out or dishes. It's like jump on that. He's just a really big 12-year-old who happens to play in the NBA now. So I'm really happy for him. I'm proud of him. And
that's cool.
I've got a question. Liam, I've always wondered, when it comes to draft nights, do you guys get like a selection of different caps? I mean, I know you have, like, for most part, you kind of know who might be selecting, but is there like a group of hats where you go, oh, we're going with this team? Did you guys have that experience?
So,
or did you just get given hats?
I honestly can't remember how we got the hat. Like, there's ushers that kind of give out hats. So when he got drafted, we're all up on stage like, hey, we made it. Like, so when he got drafted, then you go back and then you start doing all the pictures. So that's where we had the picture taken out the back stage.
Sure.
And there's a bunch of people running around doing a bunch of different stuff. So they're giving out things. And, I think they had like a certain amount of hats. And I think my sisters wore one because she didn't care about her hair, and my other sister's like, I just got my hair done for 3 hours, so I'm not putting that on at all. I think we all got hats. If there's one thing about the Simmons family that you got to know is, like, if there is a giveaway, we're going to get it. Like I think the coolest thing was we went to a luncheon. It was the day before the draft, and that draft was really cool because, like, Avina Sabonis was there with his kid.
Wow.
And, like, his daughter's like 6'4". Like, they walk in. It's
wow.
Like him, his son, and his daughter. Like, that's a solid 3-on-3 team. Like, that's a good 3-on-3. But, like, we're sitting there and there's a table full of mugs, like NBA trinkets and badges and, like, pins. So, like, we're all sitting there. Every table has the same thing. And I confess, as we're walking out, myself and my other brother Sean are just putting stuff like, I went back to my job and, like, everyone at my work got, like, pins and, like, pens and books. like,
Liam, you'll fit in nicely in New Zealand.
Yeah. You've just naturally become family. Hey, we've got a couple more pictures real quick, and then we get some questions and we have a bit of fun. So let's just throw those last few pics up.
Oh, Leon Henry, stud.
There he is.
Stud. That was day dot. That was the first day of trials. I think I was probably saying something very relevant to basketball, but it looks like we're focused on basketball. So
yeah, it looks amazing. And just maybe talk about your podcast, man.
Yeah, Coaches in Quarantine. That's Coach John Gallagher from Hartford Hawks. He's a phenomenal, good friend, great coach. He's been on the podcast and did a great job. But the podcast started when basically level 3 hit. And, as a coach, I try and call other coaches and learn as much as I can. And I just kind of dawned on me, like, well, why don't I just record the conversations and use it as a resource for, just any guy who wants to, click and log on. Like, it doesn't cost money. And, instead of it being, a story time with coach fill in the blank, we tried to nail down topics that are relevant to coaching. So I think talking with Coach Gallagher was really a great podcast about building culture and what he's done out there at Hartford, dealing with changes in athletic directors and different things like that. So there's others there to talk about motion offense. The latest one that's gone up with Coach Josh Austin is about building relationships with players, which is really, really good. So lots of stuff for guys that are interested. It doesn't cost anything, and just having a bit of fun. Everyone's in quarantine, so that's where the coach is. When we get out of this thing, I'll probably have to change the name to something, so I'll be open to naming it.
Coach is not in quarantine?
There you go. Boom.
Sold.
Yeah.
And I think last one before we get to some questions. So
that's the crew. That's the
bros.
B version of the Backstreet Boys. So on my right is Sean, and then on my left is Ben. So that's my brothers.
Awesome.
And I'm the oldest, so. And I look the oldest, definitely look the oldest.
Distinguished, the most distinguished.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice. Hey, Liam, thanks for that, man. And thanks for your insight, sharing your heart and sharing some of that wisdom and talking a little bit about your family. I know it can be a real personal thing. So, look, I'm sure there are a number of questions here. We're going to pull a few questions in. And as they come through, let's just fire them up on the screen. Coach, what ethnicity are you?
Oh, dude, I'm clear. I'm white.
Clear.
Larry Bird is clear.
I'm Caucasian.
That's cool.
How do you keep team morale up? I think just focusing on the positives. I think dwelling on the negatives can take things down a notch, but I think focusing on the positives and the good things coming forward and what we're doing well. Jordan or LeBron? Oof.
The controversy begins.
Yeah, I'll go with Jordan for the lame argument that he's got more championships.
There we go.
What has been the highlight of being a coach? Connecting with guys and seeing them having success beyond basketball. A bunch of guys I coached in Missouri and beyond are doing really well. Guys getting married, guys going into careers that they've worked really hard to attain. So that's the fun part. Kate's husband Ben is my favorite play. Can you tell us something we don't know about him? He swings a golf club reverse right-handed.
Wow.
Like reverse grip. So he holds it like a lefty but swings it like a righty.
Oh.
And it works for him?
It works for him.
Man, that's so unfair, eh? Like he's already amazing at basketball, and then not only does he not play golf just normal like the rest of us, he's amazing on a reverse grip.
When you get around guys that are that level of athlete, and it's so annoying, like how well they pick up things. Like it's just dumb. Like you go do a sport and you're like, oh, let's just go play ping pong, table tennis, and then you just get smoked, and you're like, yeah, this is not any fun anymore. Like so, basically, you just avoid any kind of physical activity. But yeah, he holds it like a lefty and swings it like a righty. So it looks good, but he gets it done.
I feel you on that, man. Who was someone you look up to and why?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So many different dudes. I really look up to David Patrick. He's the head coach of UC Riverside. He's become a great mentor, great friend. Brett Brown, someone I've known for a really long time. And another guy that's come into my life recently is Monty Williams, who's he's just rock solid. He's changed the way I've thought about things and really kind of made me, develop other skills and other, ideas and ways of thinking that I hadn't really been open to before. So those would be three guys that I really admire and look up to.
Awesome. What's this question?
And how does it compare to the NBA level? Man, that's hard for me. That's kind of a stab. We didn't get to play a game yet. So
just on the back of that, Liam, what does it take for Aussies?
It's a really respected league across the world. Everyone that I told I was coming here was like, man, it's a solid league and it's recognizable. Obviously, it's different in terms of the amount that we play and the time that it runs, but it's certainly a respected league. And guys in the NBL, Australian NBL, coming over and doing well and going in leaps and bounds. So yeah, NBA is the NBA. You cannot compare.
Liam, what are the key fundamentals for young Kiwis and Australians and to get the game, get players from here over to the States, what are the key fundamental skills that we need to be working on as, is it high school, primary school? Like, what should we be working on?
I think I would say Australasia. I think we do a very good job. I think coaches here do a great job of teaching the game. From very early ages, kids understand plays and concepts and far better than kids in the US. Fundamentally, they're sound. I think the gap for Australians and New Zealanders going over is the individual ability to play the game. I think we, in this area of the world, we play a lot of team basketball. We don't play enough one-on-one. I think when you get to the States, where when I throw the ball to a kid in the States, he can play one-on-one, and he knows how to try and score and knows how to do that. Over here, that's probably the gap. I think for us to, narrow that gap, I would love to see kids playing a little bit more one-on-one, and then I would love to see kids be a little bit more relaxed about that part of the game being played within their structure, and encouraging kids to be creative and not just rely on the plays, because that's only going to be for a moment in time. So you're going to recycle those coaches and move on to the next one. So I think giving kids the skills to be able to, like I said earlier, is figure out what you're great at and encourage that. So if you're great at shooting, be a great shooter and shoot it. And if you're a great one-on-one player, encourage that. Let them go. Like, don't put guys in a box. And thank goodness that my brother was as such that, my dad coached him and at a young age and put the ball in his hand and said, "You're a point guard." And then even more so, Brett Brown, when he got to the Sixers, the kid played the 4-man spot in LSU, and then now he's in the NBA, and Brett's like, "Hey, Coach Brown, you're a point guard, go for it." And I would love to see more of that in the junior levels here and going forward.
Nice, man. Cool. We're going to ask two more questions. We've got one from Shane here. And Shane, before he asks this question, he's actually got in the comments there, go the Sharks. I don't think so, Shane. It's the Bulls all the way. If you and Ben are playing basketball as kids in the driveway, what is your go-to move to get inside him? Oof.
If we were kids, I'm posting him up every day of the week. No fouls. I think we just went through I'm an 80s and 90s baby, so I'm going in the post. I'm probably spinning on him and elbowing him in the back of the head, scoring on a very infantile Ben Simmons. If we were playing one-on-one now, I would back as far away as I can and try and shoot from as far away as I could.
Shoot from the logo,
when you're there and we do that brother stuff, we're playing one-on-one, and he steps on the floor. It's so hard to get a shot off. This isn't even fun anymore. It's honestly one of the most emasculating things is to have your younger brother stand there and say, "Oh, you can't shoot," and it's relax.
That's awesome, man. That's so good. And last question for now is, if you could get any current NBA player to join the Bulls, who would you pick?
Any current NBA player? Anyone? Oh my gosh.
No salary cap.
No salary cap. No salary cap. I'm going to get in KD.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good pick.
Loyalty says I should go get my brother, but
true.
I would try and get Ben, but I think KD would be fun to have over here. Just watching him go get 50 and 60 and make me look like the best coach in the league. So
nice, Coach. Just one, we're coming to the end of the show. So, Coach Embo, just what's one bit of encouragement? What's one positive thing we can leave people with tonight? What's one way we can pick up and encourage people to keep going through some challenges and what they might be facing right now? And we'll start with you, Coach.
I just think just pour into the people around you. I think while you've got the time and you've got space in life without having to go to work as much as that is affecting everyone and we're worried about a lot of stuff, just pour into the people around you and just understand that it's in God's hands. You know, just let go a little bit of the wheel and control the controllables in your life, which, you know, for some of us is, you know, working on our marriages or just family stuff, or, you know, just even just, you know, your own stuff, you know, physical fitness, whatever. But I think just pouring into those around us is important. And it's an opportunity that we don't often get. So don't take it for granted and jump all over it.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And Bodes, one thing from you?
Yeah, it was just coming back from Sunday's message, knowing that it's okay to let go of the past, and to know that there are people that believe that you have a future. There's a God that believes you have a future, and stepping into that and letting go of the baggage. Stop turning around, looking back at the past, and maybe thinking that you're not good enough, or you're not worthy enough, or you have to stay in the past, but actually you don't. You have a purpose and you have a future, and it's to step into that and to move forward. I think that's a really powerful message.
Nice. So thank you for that. Thank you both. And Coach, again, I want to thank you tonight for coming on, for giving us your time. It's been really insightful. It's been a whole lot of fun. We are continually, I'm continually not just praying, but supporting the Bulls and what you guys are doing there, the culture you're trying to build and set. It's amazing, and it's a real privilege to be a part of. Again, privilege to have you here. People, go and check out the Bulls. Go and check out Coach's podcast. You get some good nuggets of not just around sport, but I'm sure leadership as well, and insights into how to navigate some things in life. It's fantastic. I think Coach spoke about tonight that as humans, sometimes we can be a little bit selfish, but it's beautiful when we're not. And when we walk beside our fellow human being and we show them some aroha, some love, some compassion, what it can do for another person, and the ability to control the controllables, like you've said tonight, but also to keep getting up and moving forward. So I pray you are motivated. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. We are the Render Gathering with the Bulls, helping you become